Alright, I am back with another video, and today we are doing a build request. I've been asked a few times to try and do a build that revolves around earth magic, so, you know, like an earthbender, or the technical term would be a Geomancer. And, well, that comes with a big problem, at least when it comes to Baldur's Gate. Yes, there are earth-related spells in the game, but they're basically exclusive to level 5 spells and higher, meaning that you could play a Geomancer in theory, but you wouldn't actually be able to use earth spells until, well, level like, I don't know, 10 to 12. It's bad. It's not a good kind of playstyle to focus on. So if we're going to build an earth magic character, we're going to have to loosely define what earth magic is. However, don't dismay. I have found a way to get some earth related offense in the early game. So let's get into the build. First off, we are going to be playing as a druid. This means we're going to be able to get a few earth-related cantrips, or that one of them being Thorn Whip. You sprout a thorn kind of out of the ground that pulls enemies towards you. Yes, this is a stretch, but it's the best that I could come up with. And we're also going to be grabbing Shillelagh, because I hope that's how you pronounce that. Shillelagh? Yeah, I'm just going to call it that. This is a cantrip that's going to buff our club, as we are using a club as our main weapon, and is going to synergize with some other pieces of equipment that we're going to get later. As for your ability scores, we're going for an 8 in strength. We don't actually need it since we're going to be using an item to bump it up. Dexterity is 16 for our AC, Constitution at 14 for our HP, Wisdom at 16 as it's going to be our main spellcasting modifier, and Charisma at 12 just because it's nice to have it there. At Druid level 2, we're going to get to choose our subclass, and you might think I might finally use Circle of the Land as this could be a spellcasting build. But we're going Circle of the Moon, and you will see why towards the end of the build. But Circle of the Moon is going to give us a ton of useful features, like the ability to use Lunar Mend while wild-shaped, allowing us to use our spell slots to heal ourselves, and it's going to give us access to exclusive wild-shaped forms, one of which we are going to want. Now, we do get to prepare spells as well, which I didn't do last level, apologies, but we are just going to grab the typical utility kit of Longstrider and Enhanced Sleep, as well as Speak with Animals, Good Berry, and the last one can be whatever you like, it doesn't really matter. I'll just go with Create or Destroy Water because you could help out that lightning sorcerer that's in your party. At Druid level 3, we're going to be able to get level 2 spells, and again, there's nothing that I really want at this level, but if we're going for the sake of, like, stuff that comes out of the ground as earth magic, then Spike Growth will make a ton of sense, allowing you to bring out spikes from the ground that impede enemies' movement and deal damage. We're also going to be grabbing Bark Skin to be able to bump our armor class up to a 16. This is more just to kind of go for a visual look that looks a bit more earthy, but we'll get a better version of this later. Next up at Druid level 4, we're going to be grabbing our first feat. Now, we are going to be grabbing a very popular feat here, that being Tavern Brawler, and we'll use it to bump up our Constitution. Tavern Brawler is going to give us a bonus to thrown weapons, which is something that we're going to want. As for our cantrips, we are just going to take Guidance here, because it's one of the better ones. And for our extra prepared spell, take whatever you like. Flaming Sphere could count as a big rock that's on fire, if you want it to. I'm really stretching here, guys. There is very limited options in this game. Oh, bloody hell, I just remembered I forgot to show off our 1-level multi-class dip, so I will do that now. This is going to be Wizard, because this is going to allow us to use a level 6 spell that we can learn from a scroll that we would not normally be able to get as a druid, that being Flesh to Stone. I will have an infographic on screen now, but basically what Flesh to Stone will do for us is allow us to petrify an enemy, turning them to stone. It's the only kind of other, like, earth magic thing that I could find that wasn't part of, like, our main class, so I wanted to grab it somehow, so a 1-level dip of Wizard to learn it from a scroll will work. Now, as for our cantrips as a wizard, take whatever you like. I would just grab some utility options like Friends, Mage Hand, and Minor Illusion. And for our spells as a wizard, it really doesn't matter what you pick here, but Shield is a great option, as well as Disguise, Self, and Featherfall for the utility. And also something like Magic Missile couldn't hurt. Chromatic Orb, since, like, since this game kind of like has thunder aligned with earth in some ways, so a thunder orb might make sense, and then mage armor if you decide you want to use clothing, but otherwise take whatever you like. And for our single prepared spell, we do have Flesh to Stone here. I have already learned it from a scroll, so I can actually show it quickly right now, but you will have seen the infographic already. But basically we get to restrain an enemy, and then it will eventually petrify them, which means it completely incapacitates them. Powerful level 6 spell for sure. And now we're going to be leaving Wizard once again. I don't want any subclass features from it because I want to reach level 11 of Moon Druid. So let's get back to it. At this point we are going to get Wild Strike, which means we can make an additional attack after attacking in our wild shape form, which is good. We also do get level 3 spells at this level, and we'll go with Plant Growth. Again, they come from the ground, so, you know, we count it. And I do have to reorganize my entire spell list, I just noticed. God bloody damn it, game. Stop doing this to me. What else did we have? Good berry. And we'll go for enhanceability. Next up, at Druid level 6, we're going to be grabbing our next subclass feature, that being the Primal Strike, meaning that our wild shape attacks overcome resistance and immunity to non-magical damage. We also do get the Panther and Owlbear wild shapes at this level. We also do get to get another spell, and again, it's entirely up to you. Take whatever you'd like. What? Earth magic? I mean, I kind of leaned into the thunder thing, so let's go with thunder for now. Thunder wave. Next up at Druid level 7, we're going to be able to get level 4 spells, which means we can actually throw on some extra bits of utility that are on theme for the build. Number 1 being Stone Skin. It literally turns your skin to stone and gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Pretty good. We can also grab Grasping Vine, allowing us to summon a vine out of the ground that can, well, grasp our enemies and hold them still, and whap them, so pretty good. And finally, we can grab Conjure Minor Elemental to be able to summon mud methods that can deal, you know, they can like throw mud. They mainly deal bludgeoning damage, but I mean, what else are they going to do? And they can also restrain enemies by throwing mud on them, so, you know, it works out. We might as well pick it up. I don't think there's anything else here. Yeah, let's keep going. Next up at Druid level 8, we are going to be getting our feat, and at this point I really need to bump up that wisdom. We're kind of suffering for ability scores here since we took Tavern Brawler, so I would definitely recommend bumping up that wisdom for those skill checks. As far as I know, there is actually a way to like get a +2 to your wisdom in this game in Act 3 as like a mirror or something, but I haven't really looked into it that hard because it's a bit complex, but if you know what to do, then use that to bump this up to 20. At Druid level 9, we are going to be getting some level 5 spells, and there are some super important ones to grab. One of them being Conjure Elemental, which is going to allow us to summon an Earth Elemental, and then obviously Wall of Stone to allow us to create a wall of stone that enemies will have to fight their way through before they can get to us. We're mainly grabbing this because it's on theme. Honestly, it's not that great as a spell. It requires your concentration to maintain, and all it does is it makes enemies kind of like get segregated for a little bit from the battle. Honestly, the magic options in this game just are not that plentiful. And as for your final spell, I mean, if you wanted to go the full summoner route, you can grab Conjure Woodland Being, but honestly, I've done that so many times it's kind of bog standard now, but again, we're kind of limited for thematic options here. At Druid level 10, we are going to be getting our wild shape form, that is our final wild shape forms, and the one that I truly wanted to go this far into Moon Druid for, the Earth Myrmidon, allowing us to use various Earth-related abilities once we wild shape, and as such it is perfectly on theme for this build and is one of our strongest options as a Geomancer, so we definitely wanted to pick it up. We are going to get another cantrip at this level, and I would say Resistance works. And for our final spell that we're going to grab at this level, oh yeah, let's grab Enhanceability back. And finally, with Druid level 11, we do get to grab level 6 spells, and the only one I really want from this is Wall of Thorns, allowing us to summon entangling twisting vines from the ground that deal a ton of damage and can restrain our enemies for us. It's one of the better on-theme options that we have. And that is the build. With this, you are going to have access to at least as much Earth Elemental stuff as we can realistically get, that being various rock-based moves, such as Wall of Stone and the Flash 2 stone abilities, as well as Flaming Sphere and such if you're kind of stretching it. And then we can also summon vines with things like Thorn Whip, Grasping Vine, and, you know, what's this one called? Wall of Thorns. And of course we get things like Stone Skin as well, to be able to kind of get that earthy vibe, even though this is kind of mainly a bog standard druid. But I did say I had an early game option for earth-based damage, so let me show you what I've got. Oh geez, I really had to stretch for this one, guys. I've got rocks. We're gonna throw rocks. Look, okay, so in the Owlbear Nest and the prison cell of the Goblin Camp prison, there are these objects called heavy stones. I was able to find 10 of them, but there may be more, in which they are just items that you can keep in your inventory and can throw at enemies. So yes, we are going to cast rock at people by just throwing them. It's so bad. I'm so sorry. This was the best I could come up with, and once I kind of saw it, I'm like, okay, I have to do it for the memes. So yes, if you can get these heavy stones early on in the game, you can throw them at your enemies. You just have to pick them up after every battle, which, yes, is annoying as hell, but it's the best that we've got in the early game until we start getting these higher level spells where we can, and our wild shape forms, where we can be a bit more on theme. But so, and it does do a decent chunk of damage if you spec into it. Like I say, we're using the Club of Hill Giant Strength, which is going to set our strength to 19, meaning that if we combine that with the Gloves of Uninhibited Kashigo and the Ring of Flinging, our thrown attacks with these rocks are going to do a decent chunk of damage. But of course, rocks aren't thrown weapons, so we're not going to get the biggest benefit out of it. But again, it's the best we've got. So there you go. That's how we're getting our earth magic, in quotations, in the early game. We're throwing rocks at people. It's the best I got. Let's get into the rest of the equipment. The Warped Headband of Intellect is going to allow us to equip more wizard spells. Like I say, I have Flesh to Stone here, but we can also grab things like Shield and, like I said, Chromatic Orb, and maybe even Featherfall as well, just to kind of have those ready. So yeah, we definitely want that. And overall, we actually have a pretty decent stat spread. We're kind of a jack of all trades here. We're not really a master of any specific stat, but all of them are good enough that we will be able to be a good generalized kind of character. And when we wild shape, our physical stats will get better anyway. Speaking of wild shape, we'll talk about the Armour of Moonbasking. While wild shaped, you get 22 temporary hit points, and while those hit points are active, you reduce all incoming damage by 1. You also have a +2 to armor class, advantage on saving throws against spells, and these effects persist while you're using your wild shape ability. Pretty good overall. Speaking of armor class as well, I've gone with the Cloak of Protection and Evasive Shoes combo just to give us that bit more to our AC, because we are wearing light armor with this build and our dex is a bit on the low side. That with the Iron Vine Shield, which while we are empowered with Shillelagh, when hit with a melee attack, the attacker will take extra piercing damage. We get a decent chunk of AC and a little bit of retaliation to work with, which is pretty nice. As for our accessories, we have the Corvid token. This is again just good for any wild shape build. It's going to give us constant Featherfall, which will persist while we're wild shaped, and the ability to polymorph into a Dire Raven at will. And we also get a little bit of a bump to our jump speed, which is nice. Jump speed? Jump height. That's how things work. And we also have the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring. Since we can wild shape, we might as well get a plus 1d4 bonus to all checks while we are. So, you know, overall, pretty standard set for a druid with the ability to kind of throw things mixed in as well. This is a bit similar to my Raging Werebear build, or the Barbarian, as people called it. So yeah, I mean, you could throw the Darkfire Shortbow on here as well if you want to get haste, but I decided not to mention it or grab it really because it wasn't essential to the build. I mean, again, I kind of have to apologize for this build. I mean, as much as you are getting a super interesting and fun build here, me calling this build a Geomancer when really the closest thing we get is some late game earth magic and the ability to throw rocks, it's a bit, well, it's a little bit clickbaity of me if I'm being honest, and I do apologize for that. But once you actually get into combat with this build and you have your earth elemental summons and your ability to use like your, your vines and your wall of stone and then your wild shape into an earth myrmidon, or whatever wild shape you choose, this is actually going to be a super fun build to play. It's not a weak build by any means, certainly not my strongest, but also not my weakest. And again, since the Geomancer kind of build request came up quite a few times, I wanted to make sure I was able to do at least something. So I've got that going. But yeah, this was a tough one to do. The Earth magic options in this game are so limited that really this was the best I could do. But overall, if this is something that you want to play, you've definitely got it. Now, I do know that if you wanted to build maybe a Geomancer like the ones from the Divinity games, which was also made by Larian, you could go the route of grabbing a bunch of acid spells as well, but I didn't really want to do that, as I felt like that would be a cop-out, because I've already done an acid build already. So I felt like, okay, I'm just going to focus on kind of the earthy, druidy type side of things, and just hope it comes out well. And again, I think it does. I mean, you get a lot of ranged options here, and a lot of versatility, and come on, you're throwing rocks. It's funny. Anyways, there's not really going to be much kind of end of video stuff here, as I'm doing a big batch recording for a bunch of videos with my day off. So there's not really going to be much to say at this point. So what I'll do is I'll just let the combat footage keep rolling beyond my dialogue ending, so that you guys can kind of see how this build works in battle. And when I was doing my build testing, the combat showcase will be against Raw Ragzan in the Goblin Camp, because obviously I had to go there to get the stones. You'll notice the Wall of Stone is a bit bugged. Sometimes the rocks will just be invisible, but they are there. If you'll see, like when I cast Wall of Stone once, like some of the rocks don't appear, but they are there. And you can see I was kind of confused in the footage, because I tried to attack an enemy and it was like, it's not doing any damage, and then a rock suddenly exploded that was invisible. So you know how it goes. Baldur's Gate 3 is a very, very well put together game, and it is, but there's still a ton of bugs that they need to iron out. But anyways, that is going to do it from me. Again, I'll let the combat footage roll, and I will see you all. Well, for me, it'll be in like 10 minutes, but for you guys, it'll be tomorrow. So I'll see you all next time.
On my way. this ends well.